Facebook warns it may block news content in Canada if adverse bill is passed. Facebook warned on Friday that it may block sharing of news content on its platform in Canada over concerns about legislation that would compel digital platforms to pay news publishers. The Online News Act, introduced in April, laid out rules to force platforms like Meta's Facebook and Alphabet's Google to negotiate commercial deals and pay news publishers for their content, in a move similar to a groundbreaking law passed in Australia last year. The legislation is under consideration at a parliamentary committee, to which the U.S. social media company said it has not been invited to share its concerns. We believe the Online News Act misrepresents the relationship between platforms and news publishers, and we call on the government to review its approach, Mark Dinsdale, head of media partnerships at Meta Canada, said in a blog post.
The news sector in Canada is in crisis, and this contributes to the heightened public mistrust and the rise of harmful disinformation in our society. Just think for a moment that between 2008 and 2015, and today, 451 news outlets closed their doors in Canada. Yet, news seems to be everywhere, right? That's the impression we have. It seems to be everywhere. That it's more available than ever. So, what exactly has changed? While news has been shared widely, journalists and newsrooms are not earning what they should from their work. Now, tech giants like Meta and Google are making a lot of investments in Canada. You know what? We love that. And guys, keep investing in our country. We encourage it. But at the same time, they continue to profit from the sharing and distribution of Canadian news content without really having to pay for it. So with this bill, we're seeking to address this market imbalance. We want to make sure that news outlets and journalists receive fair compensation for their work. We want to make sure that local independent news thrives in our country. So, eligible news businesses will also be able to negotiate collectively, giving smaller news outlets in particular more bargaining power. So this is extremely important for us, so the small ones have a fair chance also. In platforms and news outlets, if platforms and news outlets are unable to reach voluntary agreement, then and only then would the Act mandate negotiation with final offer arbitration as a last resort. Now, this model is very similar to the one in place in Australia. However, we have studied it a lot. We have learned from their experience, considered the feedback from stakeholders, consulted again, and we adjusted all of this to fit with the Canadian context. First, we're making public the list of digital platforms that will meet the criteria and that would fall under the regime. Second, we are making public the lists of exemptions granted. Third, there will be an independent annual report on the value of the deals on the news industry. Fourth, we're making public the list of eligible news outlets who participate in this regime. And fifth, finally, there will be a code of conduct to ensure that the freedom and independence of the press is upheld. Freedom and independence of the press is fundamental in this.
In the face of adverse legislation based on false assumptions that defy the logic of how Facebook operates, we believe it's important to be transparent about the possibility that we may be forced to reconsider allowing news content sharing in Canada, Dinsdale wrote. Canada's Heritage Minister Pablo Rodriguez, who introduced the bill, said in a statement on Friday that the government continued to have constructive conversations with Facebook. All we're asking the tech giants like Facebook to do is negotiate fair deals with news outlets when they profit from their work, Rodriguez said in an emailed statement. The legislation proposes that digital platforms that have a bargaining imbalance with news businesses, measured by metrics like a firm's global revenue, must make fair deals that would then be assessed by a regulator. Dinsdale said news content was not a draw for Facebook users and did not bring significant revenue to the company. When Australia, which has led global efforts to rein in the powers of tech firms, proposed legislation forcing them to pay local media for news content, Google threatened to close its Australian search engine, while Facebook cut all third-party content from Australian accounts for more than a week. Both eventually struck deals with Australian media companies after a series of amendments to